Let's start off. I mean, look, thanks so much for joining. Obviously, this is going to be a one of many videos coming. You're at your cottage. People are going to have to put up with the maybe spotty internet. But either way, first things first. How's the cottage? How are you?
Cottage life is one great piece of the tragedy around COVID, at least for those of us that are lucky enough to take refuge in, the Canada, which in the summer is generally pretty beautiful everywhere. So, and it's, healthy, you're outdoors, and at least, as I say, if you're lucky enough to be able to get away from the city, it's one thing that by virtue of Zoom calls, you're not expected to be in the city, actually.
Yeah, no, Zoom. The world's changed. COVID's had at least some good in terms of the world's becoming more digital. But obviously, great to see that you're able to be at your cottage and work while enjoy life in a safe place. I guess to intro what we're going to be doing, we're going to be talking, obviously this first video is going to be an introduction for Scott, for people who have never met you or don't know much of your background. And then we'll kind of lead that. It'll be an intro about you. We'll lead that into Q, and future videos to come will be more about the industry, the entertainment industry, where Q's going, how you guys are going to get there, that kind of stuff. So I guess as a first question, Scott, maybe let's start off with school, first couple jobs, out of school, kind of how you got involved in maybe I know you have an investment in like world and an entertainment world you got into. So maybe let's just start with the first couple jobs, where you went to school, and we'll see how it goes.
Well, I was a really lucky kid in that my grandparents played a big role in my life, as well as my mom and my dad, although my mom and dad were separated from an early age. And my grandmother introduced me to the stock market when I was 14 years old. I got a piece of paper, a stock certificate of 5 shares of something called Abitibi Price, which was a paper company. Way back when, I kind of looked out the door, and the other kids on their birthdays got a bicycle. And I got this piece of paper for $60 of value instead of a bike. And I thought, gee, where's my bike? But when I started to ask my grandmother about it, it changed my life. She was a middle class lady. She actually went back to university. She got her BA when she was 68 years old, which was pretty cool. But she was a student of the stock market, and I picked her brain, and she introduced me to her stockbroker when I was 15. And I found a love for capital markets and how they're used to build companies and job creation, how they drive the economy. And I was set as something I wanted to do with my whole life. So I went to University of Western Ontario. I enjoyed that school. My mom had gone there. My dad had gone there as well. And I had summer jobs in the brokerage industry. I worked at Midland Doherty one summer. That was a predecessor to Midland Walwyn that got bought by Merrill Lynch many years ago. And I was on their commodities trading desk, which was pretty crazy. People called me up, buy 10 December gold contracts, and I was calling New York and all this kind of stuff. It was pretty cool. I remember correctly, we were on the 68th floor of First Canadian Place, which was just, mind numbing that as a, 18-year-old kid, I was going up the elevator for the summer and doing that. And there's actually a legendary trader from Gordon Capital, a guy named Danny King, who made the introduction to an executive at Midland Doherty. I remember forget the kind of first day, and he said, kid, Danny King, told me I had to hire you. And I said, well, it's okay, sir. I can bust my butt for you, which I certainly tried to do. When I graduated, I wanted to get right into the business. Most of my buddies went over to Europe with knapsacks and having a great time in Mykonos and everywhere else on the planet. And I was working. I loved cold calling. I started very quickly as a stockbroker, and I cold called. I cold called people at home, tried to be very polite. I figured if you called a serious executive during the day, they were busy, and they had assistants and people to kind of keep them busy. But if you called them kind of between 6:30 and 9, they're a little worn out. They probably had a gin and tonic. They probably had calmed down, and was able to open up a tremendous amount of customers. At the time, I started at a company called Dominion Securities Pitfield, which was a predecessor to what RBC, Royal Bank, ended up buying. And I did pretty well. Became head of their President's Club. in 1987, my second year as a stockbroker. It was also the year of the crash, but I loved it. A lot of people don't like cold calling. I enjoyed it. And I loved earlier stage companies and initial public offerings. And even then, although technology wasn't really thought of as kind of a pure technology segment, I love the technology area. So that's kind of, I could go on and on and on, but that was kind of the first forward into the business.
I guess back to, so you're working at this company, the stock market just crashed, I think was where we got to in 87. So what's next?
Well, in 87, because I was doing pretty well, I was being recruited, and there was a new vehicle, or a way in which you could struck that were created in Alberta, and they were called junior capital pools. They're now called CPCs, capital pool corporations, I think what they're called. And I was excited to do that. And at RBC, they didn't want their brokers doing that. I did the first one at RBC, and they just didn't want to set a precedent there. And meanwhile, I was being recruited by their brokers. So and it was important to me that they would allow me to pursue being involved in the JPCs, I guess they're called, the junior capital pools, JCPs. And so in literally 2 days before the crash, from that perspective, I was very lucky. 2 days before the crash, I went and joined Richardson Greenshields. Now, ironically, Richardson Greenshields was later acquired by Royal Bank. So many of the same people ended up in the same place. But in any event, I went over to Richardson Greenshields, enjoyed myself there. And then I was recruited by one of their investment bankers to move from the retail, being a stockbroker, into the investment banking area, which I did. And I loved that. I traveled the country selling the firm's deals to the firm's stockbrokers. And back then, when you did an initial public offering, you would literally start on Monday in Victoria in the morning, Vancouver in the afternoon. You'd go the next day and do Calgary and Edmonton. You'd do Regina and Saskatoon. You do Winnipeg, Toronto, Montreal, Moncton, St. John's, Fredericton, and St. John, literally within a week. It was incredible. It was a lot of fun. You saw how amazing Canada was as a country, the flats of leading into Vancouver to the cliffs of Newfoundland were just gorgeous. And I luckily met brokers from coast to coast, from multiple brokerage firms as we were taking companies public, many of whom have stayed as relationships and friends to this day. So I was really lucky, because today that doesn't happen, obviously, when companies go public. And I started to develop a real keen interest in technology companies. My view was that technology was really going to be as pervasive as it's become, in the sense that almost every company would, at its core, have technology be a main driver. And as well as entertainment, I was always interested in entertainment, movies, television, interactive features. The evolution of the internet was kind of fitting in with how entertainment was going to change and morph. And so over the years, I've really become somebody that I would describe as a person focused on technology as it relates to the overlap with media and entertainment and/or financial services.